I'm here today to speak. Thank you very much. Give me one, though. To speak on item 32, which is the recommendation by the Houston Aviation Department on the shuttle service for the airports. We were here quite a bit before May talking about this issue, and since the last appearance of people I represent, Liberty Cab, we've not heard anything from the Aviation Department. We've not been asked any questions from the Aviation Department, despite the fact that we've distributed many, many different packages to members of council to include the delay study that was a few years ago that recommended multiple providers. We would urge the council to study this recommendation and to study the issue of competition at the airports. In fact, just after we had appeared here before council on numerous occasions to discuss this topic, I just happened to see something in the Houston Chronicle. And it was an article in the business pages talking about parking at the airports. And the whole thrust of the article was how competition is good. In fact, on the third page of this handout, quote, "We see the increased competition as a plus for everyone involved," Airport System spokeswoman Marlene McClinton said. "An increase in the number of off-airport parking facilities reflects the growing airport passenger traffic and represents increased choices and opportunities for airport visitors." While parking is not the shuttle service, the same principle applies. We think, and I personally think, that competition is always good if there is a viable option. We have a national company, Super Shuttle, says they can't make money unless they have the whole thing. We have a local company, much, much smaller, which will have to invest tremendous resources to do the shuttle service if it's just part of it, or, say, Hobby Airport, not Intercontinental. Yet they're willing to take that chance because competition is good. We would urge this council to review the options before it and urge council to look at competition for the shuttle service at the airport. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. Chair recognizes Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Ryan, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your comments. You know, as the chair of the MWBE committee, I have tried to look at some issues more with an economic development focus other than just the MWBE issue at hand. And one of the things that I hear from everybody that I've been speaking to and working with is that, you know, people are looking for more opportunity and they want to see more and more business opportunities opened up by the city. And that really cuts against the grain of what this item is being proposed to this body, that it's an exclusive contract. And the challenges, the issues that I have with it is that, you know, in some other projects that we've done, we have given companies the opportunity to phase in the growth of their initiative. And I understand that one of the reasons that Liberty Cab was that their bid or application was not accepted is because they couldn't do what aviation wanted them to do right off the bat. That they didn't have the number of vans to handle the immediate capacity that we were asking them to do. But we didn't give them an opportunity to say, well, how long would it take for you to get there? And so I just want to get your thoughts, is that would it be practical that this contract could be given to the franchise, to a local vendor, and folks would be given an opportunity, especially the local folks, would be given an opportunity to phase in the growth and capacity that the project ultimately would need. I mean, would that be, you know, feasible, and would that do you think that that still would meet the business aspects of this particular contract?
Mr. Brady's following me. He's better prepared than I, but the reality is that the proposal that Liberty Cab presented to the Houston Airport System did have a reasonable period of time in which to provide the service asked for. A company never in the business doesn't have a fleet sitting there waiting, as does Super Shuttle, which has fleets all over the country. But it was a very short period of time, and it was meeting all the requirements of the RFP, despite what the Houston Aviation Department said. In fact, we've since, back then, we've asked for records. We've asked for information. We've even thought that maybe the committee which considered it at the airport, which was made up of citizens and representatives of the airport system, should have been open meetings. Until we saw this agenda item last week, we didn't even know this was coming back up because nobody had contacted us from aviation with one question since the last time this was presented. So yes, we can meet the requirements. One of the things that was urged years ago was how important it was to do this tomorrow, and we're 3 months past when we last considered it. So we think the local companies and Liberty Cab has talked with some of the other cab companies about working with them, but until they get a contract, they can't go out and buy the equipment or even borrow the money for the equipment. So yes, we think we can, and we've suggested a natural way of doing this would be maybe split Hobby Airport and Intercontinental. The smaller company take Hobby. We've also proposed a shorter period of time. I think the original proposal was 5 years with automatic 2 years or more extension. We said, why not make it 3 years, then review both companies and see if the companies are performing. And there are very many safeguards in the contract that if a company is not performing, the Houston Airport system has the opportunity to step in at any time. So we think that the competition and providing with local firms makes a lot of sense. It works with parking. It ought to work with the shuttle.
Good deal. Thank
Chair
you.
recognizes Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. Vince, I happen to like your client a lot. I think they're good people, and I never hear anything but good things about Liberty Cab. But you're a lobbyist for them, and I appreciate the job you have to do. But we don't generally well, let me not make this statement. Did you read Lee Fisher's report advising the airport, which was our consultant at the time?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I have a copy of it right here. We distributed that to all members
Is
of
it
council.
your opinion that Lee Fisher says the market's mature enough for 2 providers?
It recommends that there be more than one provider, yes.
Okay. I would disagree with you on that. I had Lee
Well-
Fisher come before our committee during one of 5 committee meetings we had on this, but that's okay. We can disagree
I
on
can
it.
certainly find it. I've got it marked in my copy.
Okay. There was an RFP process where one vendor was chosen, right,
There was one vendor recommended to council, yes,
by the committee.
by the committee made up of both members of Houston Aviation and members of the public, and we have challenged that as something that should have been open meetings from day
Right.
one.
And you were going to go to the Attorney General and get an opinion on that. Did you
Well,
do
we've
that?
not received any information yet back that we requested from Houston Aviation Department. Since council sent it back to aviation, we were hopeful that at a very minimum it would be referred back to your committee and there'd be open dialogue before a recommendation would come back before council, only to be surprised last week to see that that wasn't the case.
Okay, let me just ask you this. Do you have a problem with the people that were on the committee, or is your problem that the committee meeting wasn't open?
Well, I think that the committee meetings were not open is a huge problem. I think secondly, obviously, we have a very good aviation department. We have, by all standards, a very, very good director of aviation. But as council members know, very strong department directors have very strong opinions, and usually they're well backed. And many, many cities around this country do have sole providers, but many, many, many cities have multiple providers. We think it's clear that certainly the aviation department has wanted a sole provider from day one. Well, when you have private committee meetings made up of members of the Houston Aviation Department and members of the public, closed to the public, it's a little hard to even gauge what the dialogue was.
Okay. Last question, have those meetings, have selection committee meetings like that ever been open to the public during your time on city council?
Well, let me say this, I would not vote for anything that was not an open meetings where there were both people of the public and people from city departments. I think the greatness of democracy is open government, and the more open government you can have, the better.
So you're suggesting we shouldn't respect the opinion of airport employees because they've already chosen their?
No, I just said that when you have a meeting of airport employees and members of the public closed to the public, I personally believe the law says those should be open meetings. They were closed meetings. In fact, the name for that committee among the people in the transportation industry was the secret committee. Well, it's hard to then evaluate what the committee presents before council, either a committee or a council as a whole, if you don't know what the committee's discussions were. We've asked for documents. There's an open records request before the Attorney General that's not been answered yet, even about that.
Okay.
And thank you. We'll go to the time had expired a while back. We have other speakers